Hello, and welcome to episode number 8 of the Creative Mojo podcast. My name is Joanne, and I'm coming to you today from overcast and rainy, cold Calgary, Alberta, Canada. It's not a great week. It's the May long weekend here, I think, as well as probably in the U.S. And it's not the greatest weather possible for a long weekend. I'm off later this afternoon to a barbecue at my sister's house, which I think is going to be an indoor barbecue of some sort because it's not really outside barbecue weather. So anyway, welcome to my podcast. I'm so excited to have you join me for a little bit of your time to listen to me talk about my knitting. And welcome if you're a returning viewer, and welcome to new viewers as well. We're growing slowly but surely. I'm really excited to see people subscribing to my YouTube channel and joining our Ravelry group and getting involved in the discussion, and that's great. And particularly getting involved in the discussion in Ravelry because, or commenting on YouTube as well. I really hope for this to be as interactive as possible, this podcast. I really want to hear from you and know what you are knitting and hopefully make it as much of a dialogue as that's possible in this kind of format. So let's just dive right into it today. I don't have quite as many things to show you as I have in past weeks, and I start by saying I have no finished objects this week for the first time since I started doing this. And that'll become apparent when I talk a bit about what I have been working on. So we'll start with my works in progress, the things I have been working on this week. Only a couple of my projects have really gotten any attention, so those are the ones that I'm going to show you today. The first one is that I did put in quite a bit of time on my drifting cardigan by Cecily McDonald that I'm making out of Woolmiza Pure, which is her 100% merino fingering weight, and I'm doing it in the two colors. The Indisch Rot is this color, and then the Schwarz, which I got this inside out, which is the black that I'm adding in here. So let's see if I can show you where. So last time I showed this, I was here where the little progress keeper is, and I've done, I would say, about 4 inches more on the body. I added some more. I'm into, this isn't in the pattern, this is something I'm doing myself, is that I'm adding stripes into it to extend the length of it a bit, make sure I have enough yarn. So I'm into the striping part of the body, as you can see there. What I'm doing is sort of graduating, gradually getting bigger stripes. I started with 2 rows of the black, then 12 rows of the red, then 4 rows of the black, and 10 rows of the red, then 6 and 8, and now I'm on 8 rows of the black, and the red will get smaller as I go down to 2 rows of the red, and then the bottom will all be in the black. And I still haven't decided whether, I think I will put a little bit of black on the sleeves somehow for it, but it's coming along. I actually was able to try it on when I had, a couple of days ago I tried it on, and I think I have about another, for the length that I want mine to be. In the pattern, it's a kind of a cropped cardi, and that's not a super great look on me, so I'm making it a bit longer so that it sort of actually reaches just past my hips, I think, probably, or to my hips. So I need about another 8 inches, I think, to go on the body. And it's always that, I'm kind of in that funny no man's land of knitting where it feels like, I knit, and with the progress keeper and the stripes and stuff, I can actually see that I'm putting more fabric into the bottom, and yet it doesn't actually seem to get any longer. But it's got a huge mess of ends to weave in here, which is going to be fun. But from the striping, I didn't really want to carry the black all the way up the sides up the edges through these longer strips, so I've just been attaching new yarn and developing this beautiful fringe, but it's coming along, and I think a little bit more time and I'll be there. And I could have been farther along on it if I hadn't have started a couple of new projects this week, because I kind of was in that make all the things kind of mode. So that's my drifting cardi coming along. As I said, I am getting excited for being able to wear it. The next thing I'll show you that I've been working on, these are my Hetera socks by Cookie A, and these are what I'm calling all the cows socks, because I'm entering them into a huge variety of cows that I have mentioned before when I've shown these on the podcast. The primary incentive for these was the cookie jar cow that's being run by the Fawn and the Fox or the Fawn Knits podcast and the Pin Feathers and Pearls podcast by Laura Candace are jointly running that knit along. And luckily it goes for a little longer because I haven't made a ton of, well, I have made, sorry, so I'm knitting these obviously top down, and I was about here where this cute little progress keeper is, but there when I showed it off last. So I finished the leg repeats and did the heel flap and heel turn, and I'm into the gusset. I'm not very far into the gusset, but I'm a little way into the gusset. I made the leg on these a little bit shorter than I have done in the past. I wanted to make sort of my thing. I want to make some sort of slightly shorter leg socks for the summer to wear with skirts, and I got a couple of cute new pairs of Mary Jane shoes, and I like that. So I thought they would look better with a slightly shorter leg. So there's I think the pattern says to knit for 6 inches on the leg, and this is probably more like, I don't know, maybe 4.5 or 5, maybe. I'm really enjoying it. And the yarn is the Cyborgs Craft Room. The color, I can't remember the colorway name, and I probably do have the tag. The colorway name is Where Dreams Become Reality, and it's the Sparklate base, so it has stellina in it. I think you probably see some little sparkle happening in there. I'm not sure, and it's this is the prettiest color, this yarn. So much fun to knit with, and this is a really enjoyable pattern against the Hetera by Cookie A. It's just a little 4-row pattern repeat, very easy to memorize, very easy to do, but it makes a really beautiful and kind of intricate, get that out of the way, intricate looking little lace to it. It's got that one little twisted stitch running down the leg and stuff. So I'm enjoying working on these and need to just kind of bang out a little more progress on them. And then I cast on another pair of socks this week. I've seem to have been in the mood to, I think I pulled out and looked at all the sock whips that I have laying around at the moment, and I think I have 8 or 10 of them, which kind of need to put a bit of a dent in that, but I couldn't resist casting on something new. These are just vanilla socks, but they have a little bit of interest on them, and that you can see I've done the 2 colors. I've done a contrasting cuff, and my light is not great here today. As I said, it's rainy and overcast out, and I had a heck of a time getting my house doesn't get the greatest natural light, particularly on a gray day, because all the windows on our house sort of face north and west. So, and we don't have, I wish we had great big huge windows, but we don't. So I had to kind of play around a little bit, and got a bit more overhead light than usual. So apologies for the not great lighting and the little bit of shadowiness, but I can show you that's not bad. These 2 colors I think are just so gorgeous together. This is showing a little greener here than it actually is. It's a little bit more kind of gold. There's some green in it, but it's a little bit more gold, and it's like my sweater's making it look greener. The thing I'm wearing, by the way, I should say, I always forget to do this, is my boxy sweater that I made out of Malabrigo Rios in the lettuce colorway. I love this sweater, and it's just so comfortable, and it looks really nice, and I highly recommend, if you've seen the sweater and thought about making it, make it. It's a really enjoyable and easy knit, and it looks really good on everybody. I have not seen a person, different sizes and shapes and body types and all that kind of thing, that it doesn't look good on. I made mine probably a little less boxy than a skinny person might make. Excuse me. Terrible frog in my throat. But I made mine a little bit less boxy than some people might have made, just because I thought that would suit me better, and it does. It's still got some boxiness to it, as you can see, But yeah, I love it. It looks nice on me, and it was fun to knit, and I highly, highly recommend it. It's the Boxy by Joji Locatelli. Anyway, and it's the worsted Boxy, sorry. So I had just kind of got captivated by these two colors in my stash the other day and decided to just make some simple two-color socks. These are the, that shows up that color much better, both colors really nicely. This is skein. This was some deep stash diving I did for these colors. This is skein yarn in a BFL base that she doesn't carry anymore, I don't think. She may have a BFL base again, but I don't think it's this base. I think it's something different. And I'm not 100% sure whether she carries a BFL fingering anymore. But these are from a number of years ago. I was in, I think it was in a club from her where I got skeins in the mail all the time. I'm still in it. I'm in a different club of hers now. I just randomly get skeins in the mail, which is from Skein, which is so exciting because I love her yarn so much. But these are two that I've had in my stash for several years, I think. And they're, as I said, they're BFL based, and I actually hadn't knit, and I have probably at least a half a dozen different skeins of this base. And I hadn't really knit with it much. I knit one pair of socks with it, and I wasn't wild about the base. But having knit some BFL socks recently and realizing that I really like how they wash up and how they wear, and I decided to go back and revisit this, and I'm liking it a lot more than I did a couple of years ago. I'm not sure why, but I'm enjoying it, and possibly it's partly that I'm knitting it with a slightly tighter gauge. Anyway, the two colors that I'm using for this, and I have these living in my beautiful new Lone Larch bag that I love so much, are, this is one of her old tags from several years back. This color is called Just Like Honey, and this color is, I just love this color, sort of wine reds, maroons, purples. There's sort of browny purples and pinky reddy purple. Yeah, you can see it's so pretty. That color is called the Orient. So I'm just making, as I said, simple vanilla socks. I'm doing the I'm gonna do I did the cuff obviously, and I'm gonna do the heel and the toe in the Just Like Honey as well. I haven't decided yet what kind of heel I'm going to do. I might try my first short row heel on this, or I might just do my usual heel flap and gusset. See when we get to the heel what I decide to do, but thinking that I want to try a short row heel. So it's my usual sock, top down. These are on a size 2mm, which I think is a US 1, maybe 0, I can't remember. 2mm needle, magic loop, 72 stitches, and yeah, as I said, it's just so pretty. I got so captivated by it, and that's just, it was just an afternoon's worth of, a couple of hours worth of knitting I did sitting outdoors downtown in the sun on a beautiful day, not like this weekend, while I was waiting for a meeting that I had downtown at 5:30, and I got there kind of early to avoid too much crappy traffic, and I sat outside and I knit on these. So super fun, and looking forward to finish them. And I'm thinking, by the way, because of how much yarn it will only take to do those little socks for myself, and I'm going to make a second pair where I reverse the colors and do, this is the main color, the maroony color is the cuff, heels, and toes, and maybe do those for my little sister or something. Anyway, so that's that. And then the two things that I've worked on a lot this week, the knitting thing, because I have a spinning thing, which is very exciting. I can't actually show you that because it's a test, the knitting thing. I can't show you because it's a test knit, a test knit of a shawl for my friend Christine, who does the Yarnings podcast, and she very sweetly asked me if I would be willing to test knit this along with a couple of other people, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I can't wait till the point where I'll be able to show you the pattern and where she releases it. It's a lovely two-color shawl with a lot of It's pretty simple and straightforward in terms of the knitting of it, but with all kinds of really kind of interesting, unusual construction, which I'm really, really enjoying. So I'll show you the yarns I'm using for it, because they're really pretty. Obviously, I have a thing for this kind of color going on right now because it's not dissimilar from the socks. I just showed you this particular color. These are the two colors I'm using, and it's they're lovely together. This is this deep sort of Merlot, purpley red. I kind of think of it as, yeah, it's like Merlot, yeah, really. And then this lovely soft gray. And these two go really well together. My version of the shawl is going to be a sort of subtler one with these two kind of classics, basically solid colors, but the pattern is designed so you could knit it with two, I think she suggests, you could knit it with a solid and a pretty wildly variegated yarn. I think one of the ones that she did was a solid and a gradient. So you could do all kinds of different things, but I kind of opted for these two kind of classic, basically solid. This is a tonal, really. I don't think it picks up on the camera, but it's a tonal color. And these yarns, this one is from Becoming Art, which she's a lovely dyer out of, she lives in the Portland area. Lisa Sanchez is her name, and I don't know if she's dyeing quite as much as she did. I was in her, was I in a club of hers? I think I was for a while, and ordered a bunch of her yarn, and this was a base that, again, I don't think she carries this base anymore, and it's a shame because I love this base. I made lots of things from, it's called Cielo Fingering, and it's just 100% superwash merino. It was just a really nice 100% fairly tight twist. Love it a lot. So there's that I'm using, and that colorway is called Drink Me, and it was from a series of colors that she did that were Alice in Wonderland inspired. And then this one is, this beautiful gray is from Fiberfile. That's the card there. And this is her Super Squish Sock, which is also 100% superwash merino, I believe, a 3-ply. And this color is Mithril. And I just love it. And I'm often sort of drawn to these neutral colors, but I buy them, but then I don't knit with them singly for anything. I mean, this would make lovely socks, but I always want more color than this in my socks. But they're great as a sort of contrasting neutral color with this pop of this beautiful Merlot red, purple, whatever it is. So that's that. As I said, put quite a bit of work in on that this week, and sometime soon, hopefully, I'll be able to, I hate that, not being able to show it off, but obviously, until the design is released, that's what that's going to be. So, and then the other thing that I worked on this week was kind of exciting to me. I showed in one of my previous episodes my spindles, and I'm a spindle spinner, and enjoy that process very much, and own a bunch of spindles. The unfortunate thing is that I enjoy the spinning on the spindles a lot more, or have enjoyed that a lot more than the plying from the spinning on the spindles. And so I had a lot of stuff that I spun up where the spindle itself was sitting with the full cop of singles. There were 2 full cops of singles waiting to be plied, and they've been sitting around for months waiting to be plied because I was kind of dreading that. There's various different ways to ply singles from spindles. Some people wind them together into a plying ball and then do that. I tried that, and I got too tangled for me, and it was fiddly and it was annoying me. If you spin on Turkish spindles, you kind of, at the end of spinning a cop on a Turkish spindle, you can just pull the legs out of it and you have a little ply ball, which is great. So you could I was talking to my friend Pat about this the other day, you could put 2 ply balls in, to say if you had 2 yarn bowls, and pull them from that to ply them. What I was doing was I had an elaborate little construction I'd made of a shoebox, where this is the length of the shoebox. I had holes through it, and I put some weight in the bottom of it, and I would sit my 2 hooked it on my sweater. Idiot. Where I would put my 2 spindles in the shoebox this way through the the holes on either end and pull the singles from that, and these would sort of spin in the holes in the shoebox. But it was not, it got tangled again a lot. It was, I don't know, it was finicky and annoying, and I didn't enjoy doing it. So that made me put off wanting to ply. Then last fall, I guess, I started talking to a friend of mine when I was, one of the shows I was doing at the bigger theater complex here. We have a big theater complex downtown that houses 5 or 6 theater companies, plus the orchestra, and there's a big concert house there, and stuff like that. It's a performing arts center, and that's where I primarily work these days. Most of the shows I do are in that building. And a friend of mine who's the head stage carpenter for one of the biggest theater company, and that's not the one that I work for. We were hanging around chatting, both on a coffee break at the same time one day, I think. And in addition to being the stage carpenter, which means he builds all of the sets for the plays they do there, he's the head builder. He's also a lovely carpenter of, in his spare time for fun. I know he's made lots of beautiful woodworking little pieces of furniture and things like that. And he's very creative and very good carpenter. And as is the case with most people who work in the arts and theater, technicians that work in theater, people that do carpentry and sewing and all of that, in addition to having great technical skills in that area, they also tend to be very creative thinkers and very good at problem solving and figuring out how to make things in certain ways, because you have to be. People, when you're building something for a play, you may be building someone may say, we want you to build a wardrobe, but it needs to do these special things. It needs to have a trick panel in the back, or, so they're very good at thinking up how to make things work in certain ways, is basically what I'm saying. And I asked him if he would consider building something for me if I paid him a bit of money, and I said there's no rush on it. You could do it whenever in your spare time. And I explained to him that I wanted basically what's called a lazy Kate for spinning my spindles, and it's something to hold these while I ply from them, and that works better than my shoebox. And I had looked at some online, and I'd see that there were some people making some really lovely ones, but every place I could find was in the U.S., and it was totally prohibitive to order from the U.S. because the shipping would have been twice the cost of the lazy Kate that I wanted to order. And in a lot of cases, they even said on their website they didn't ship to Canada or outside of the U.S. because of the cost of the shipping. So I knew that, but I knew what I wanted, kind of, and I talked to him about it. Of course, he had no idea. He doesn't know anything about knitting or spinning or any of that. But I sort of explained to him what I was looking for, and he went away and he looked up a bunch of them on the internet, and he looked at what they looked like and how they were built, and he got an idea, and he came back and he said, yeah, sure, I totally will make that for you, and I have some ideas. And he asked me some more questions, and we got some measurements together and stuff. And it took a while just because he was really busy through the winter building sets, doing his job. But as spring came in, he has had a little bit of time recently, and he texted me and said, I have a couple of days where I'm in the shop, but I'm mostly sitting around waiting for materials and don't have a lot to do, and this is an awesome time. Let's build that thing. So he did, and when he got down to it, he built it for me in a day and a half, I think, between building and then sanding and painting it. And it's fantastic. And I wanted to try and show it to you, but it's kind of big and heavy, and he made it pretty sturdy, and it was too awkward to hold up for the camera. So I'm going to stick a little video at the end of this that shows, I think, a photograph and a video that show me working on it, so you'll see. But essentially, it's sort of it's a pyramid kind of or a triangle shape, so that the spindles sit this way, and it has room for 3 spindles to sit in it, and the arms on it are adjustable so that for different sizes of spindles, and it holds the spindles kind of 1, 2, and then 3, and I'm holding up 2 because most of what I'll do is 2-ply, but so it holds the 2 spindles beautifully. They spin freely. The arm that comes up on this side has kind of a U to pop in, and the arm on this side has got this is the adjustable side, and it's got a hole to go through. So it holds it there like that, but it holds all 3 of them he made it, as I said, pretty heavy so it doesn't slide around. He put a little rubber matting on the bottom, so if it's on a table, it's not going to slide. Plus, it has a little kind of brace on the back that you could actually hook it to the back of a table. It's genius. And that the afternoon after I brought it home and I got really excited, was like, I'm going to apply all these singles that have been sitting around, and I did. And I applied at, I bet you, twice the speed of what I was applying at before with my stupid little shoebox design. And he already texted me again and said, what do you think? How's it working? And I said, it's working great. And he said, well, figure out, you know, if there's any things that aren't working about it, what you like, what you don't like, and get back to me about it, because I'm going to, he said, I'm going to consider that version 1, and we're going to we're going to fiddle with it a bit and add some things, and then I'm going to make you version 2, and I'll do it out of some nicer materials, because he just used some spare carpentry wood that was laying around the shop, and then gave it a light coat of paint. And but he said, you know, I can use some nicer wood, and we can you know, put some finish on it instead of paint and stuff. So that's super exciting. And like I said, I applied off these 2 days ago. This was 2 full cops of singles, and now I have this uber giant full cop that I did it about a day and a half of applying, and that's 2-plied yarn. All it needs now is to be wound off into a skein, given a bath to set the twist in it and hang to dry, and then it's ready for me to make something beautiful out of it. And the gosh, I'm croaky today. The fiber I used to spin this gorgeous yarn, this is probably about a fingering weight, I think, was some hobbledehoy batlings, which are hands down my favorite thing to spin on spindles. I have tons of them. Again, I was in her club twice, I think, last winter, and I would have stayed in it forever, except that because I just loved getting a shipment of her batlings every month. My house would have become overrun with fiber because I can't spin fast enough to justify that. So I've taken a break. Probably when I've spun a bit more of it, I will go back in that club again, I hope. But that one there, here's Liz's lovely little card that comes with the it's Liz Stottlemyre, and it's hobbledehoyfibers.com. That was the last August's Battling Club, and the colorway was Little Canoe Batlings, and the fiber makeup was merino, soy silk, and sparkle, and beautiful blue, primarily blues. There's darker blues, and there's lighter blues and bright blues. You can't see, but I'll show this to you again when I've got it all finished and set and in a skein. Down underneath, inside here, there are lots of lighter blues and a little bit of grays, and there's green, and then there's blue sparkle, I think, in there, blue and silver stellina, maybe. Anyway, it's gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And I actually spun this pretty thin, probably slightly thinner than I would like to have spun it, so it's a light fingering, I would guess, for the most part. So that took up the last 2 days of my crafting time. I'm just going to show you, because I said I love doing the batlings so much. This is one that came last September, I guess. They come in this bag like this. Pardon all the crinkling noise. I'm going to make as little as possible of that. But come in a bag like this of these fantastically beautiful little nests of fibery goodness. All kind of in a color scheme, kind of, but not all the same. So what I generally do is I divide them into 2 piles that weigh roughly the same, and apply this one and then apply that one. And I kind of divide them, figure out an interesting way that I want to kind of divide up the colors. So this is all in kind of reds and golds, and there's blues in there. Reds and golds and coppers and blues and yeah, browns. Super, super gorgeous. Those colors were called sugar maple, and the makeup of these is hand-dyed merino wool, milk silk, bamboo, and sparkle. And they're just ideal for a spindle. I mean, I can throw one of my smaller spindles and this little 1 or 2 of these in a little bag and into my purse or whatever, and take it with me. I was on the road with my husband part of last summer, and I took the last 2 summers actually, I think, took a bunch of these kind of things with me and spun on the road lots, not in the car because that's impossible, but in hotels where we stayed and stuff. Anyway, that's that, and I love those, and I highly recommend, if you do spindle spinning, I highly recommend checking out a different one of her cards. Checking out Hobbledehoy and trying to get some of her batlings because they're the best. So, what else? Done on my whips, done my spinning. I will show you my one acquisition for this week. Trying to slow down a little on that. I probably won't have any next week, hopefully, because I haven't ordered anything so far, but couldn't resist. Yes, I did. I got more Fawn and the Fox, more Badger from Fawn and the Fox, which is her BFL base. I'm totally in love with this. I gotta admit, this is now my third skein. I showed you the socks I knit, and then the skein I got 2 weeks ago. And if I catch more updates of this, if I'm able to catch more of her updates, I will probably buy more of this because I cannot resist it. I love the base. This color is just gorgeous. This is called Never Let Me Go. And the base, as I said, is Badger, which is a 75% BFL and a 25% nylon. And look at that. The lilac, gray, teal, greeny blue, and then, I don't know if it's going to show. Oh yeah, you can kind of see there's little flecks of green and gold and sort of pink and little bits of sort of dark blue or maybe even black. I can't quite tell, but it's gorgeous. Again, there's something, and maybe it's partly the way the BFL takes the dyes, or it's just maybe it's her aesthetic and her dye technique. All the skeins I've got in this base so far become these beautiful kind of faded colors, which I adore. So yeah, I have no idea what I'll do with this except look at it and love it. It's so nice. That's that. So where are we at? So the last the last thing I want to talk about today is a couple more podcast recommendations. Obviously, when I'm spending a lot of time crafting, when I was spending 2 days on and off plying the in between working, I do work too, but from home. So tends to be work a bit, craft a bit, work a bit, craft a bit, you know. But while I'm doing the crafting, I do watch a lot of podcasts, which is why I've been talking a lot about podcasts recently and giving you my recommendations. But I've been really enjoying wading through the world of all the podcasts that are on YouTube. There are so many knitting podcasts now. And it's actually really fun to kind of hunt around and you know, I have all the regulars that I like to watch, and then I'm always looking on the hunt for sort of new ones and stuff too. And so 2 I want to talk about this week. The first one is one I just discovered yesterday or the day before, 2 days ago, I guess. And she's quite new, and she's got, I think, 6 episodes out now. But I actually really enjoyed it. I watched her most recent episode, then I've gone back and I think I've watched her first 3 so far is how far I've gotten with it. But it's called Knitting with Dolls, and her name is Julie. She's I don't think she has a Rav group as yet, but she's Bubblegum Ponies on Rav. She lives in Staten Island in New York, and she's a younger gal and a newer knitter, but I really actually just, and she collects dolls, and she shows these dolls that she collects, which is nothing that particularly interests me, except that it's interesting to hear her talk about them and her interests. And she's pretty artistic, I think, in general. She showed us some beautiful watercolor paintings that she's been doing, and knitting and crocheting and other things like that. She was interested in she was talking about yarn bombing, and she was showing a beautiful piece that she crocheted that she was going to put up somewhere on a fence, I think, by her son's school. And I just, you know, I said she's a younger gal, but I just really, and I super enjoy her demeanor. She's really sort of sweet and energetic and interesting and captivating, and yeah, I just had fun watching her, and I think she's one to keep an eye on because she's really, really an interesting gal with lots of lots of artistic talent, obviously. So that's Knitting with Dolls is that podcast. And the other one I was going to talk about is one that I'm going to guess that you all have probably heard of before and have probably watched before, but I've been enjoying them, and they struck a chord with me, and I'll tell you why. It's the Periscoping Sisters, Wendy and Amy. They're pretty popular, and I think a lot of people have seen them. If you haven't seen them, you should go check them out. They're really lovely. And what I particularly am enjoying about their podcast is the relationship between the two of them. They're sisters, obviously, the Periscoping Sisters, and the relationship between them as sisters. And they have had never know how to say that, a third sister who passed away. And obviously all three of them were very close. And I love how they keep her alive in their life and in their family and in their, I think in their day-to-day life, kind of, through their connection to her and the way that they talk about her, and on their podcast, the way that they kind of bring her in as a presence in their podcast. She's a big part of, they design quite a bit, and then mostly they, I think, have designed shawls. They have a couple of the Because I Love You wrap that Amy Meeks designed. Amy, one of the two sisters, has been very popular, and I know that Debbie has also designed some shawls, and I think they've got another new one just being tested now, and they all kind of honor their sister Wendy in some way, and that really touches me, and I'll tell you sort of why. I've been through this experience as well. I have a brother, my brother Mark, who was a couple years younger than me, who passed away when he was 25 years old, and it was unexpected. He died as a result of injuries. He stayed in a mountain climbing accident. He was a climber, and he fell 75 feet down a mountain and sustained a bunch of injuries and was in the hospital for a little while and strangely recovering. We thought he was recovering from that, and then he had a blood clot anyway, and he passed away. This is quite a few years ago now. He's been, I think this summer will maybe be the 26th anniversary of his passing. But you never really quite get over something like that. You never forget that, missing member of your family, that person that you grew up with from a tiny, tiny child. As I said, he was 2 years younger than me, and so he was in between me and my little sister. And there are 6 years almost between myself and my sister, and we were not as close when we were younger, because I left home while she was still like 13, I think, and was out going to university, and and then she left when she got ready for university, old enough for university. She left and went to Toronto, across the country. And so we had not spent a lot of quality time together, getting to know each other, once I left home. So for her, past the age of about 12 or 13. And my brother passing was the catalyst in a lot of ways for us really coming together and cementing a relationship, particularly cementing a relationship as two adults. And we're very close now. She's my best friend, and she now lives here in Calgary with her husband and two kids who are my nephews that gave me my Ravelry and Instagram name, Auntie Jo. They're the lights of my life, and I couldn't imagine not having them in my life. They're fantastic. I spend lots of time with them and love them to pieces. Anyway, I watching the Periscoping Sisters, I just really love and admire that way that they honor that part of their lives and who they are through that sister who is no longer there, at least no longer there in that way. And I wish that, we have lots of ways that we keep my brother a part of our lives. Not quite that one. I wish, I've also noticed on, if you watch the Stalking It Zombies podcast, Megan from Stalking It Zombies has also gone through this experience. She lost her sister. And she every year knits a hat pattern in honor of her sister and talks a little bit about her sister and that. And again, that really speaks to me and touches me. And I don't know that I'm ever going to, who knows, never say never, but at this moment, I don't see necessarily designing a knitwear item in honor of my brother. Although I was thinking about the other day, the fact that I sort of forget sometimes that I think he was the first crafter in our family. Really, he was into all kinds of things, like creating things anyway. And I think probably he did learn to knit when he was a teenager. I think my mom probably taught him, because he learned to do all kinds of stuff. But he sewed, and he would sew. He made, designed and sewed climbing pants. They're spandex sort of skin tight pants that climbers wear, and he would buy these wild fabrics and make these beautiful climbing pants for himself and all of his climbing buddies. And I had forgotten about that till recently. So who knows, maybe I will find some inspiration there. But anyway, I really think that that's fantastic. I'm going to knit one of their wraps or the shawls that they've designed in honor of the connection between them and their sister Wendy, and that. And interestingly enough, they were just talking about, I think they're going to do a cal in July on their latest design. I can't remember for sure, but because July was Wendy, their sister's birthday month, which July is also my brother Mark's birthday month. So might join in on that cal. We'll see. And I was just going to show you the last thing, speaking of my brother and this being a knitting podcast and knitwear, I was going to show you this kind of heirloom knit, I guess, kind of, that I now have. It's very dusty. It really, really needs a bath, but this is a big, heavy weight couch and sweater that my mother made for my brother Mark when he was, it's got ends sticking out everywhere. I don't think she didn't weave in her ends. Oh, that's even on the right side. So needs a little bit of TLC, and like I said, it needs a good bath, but it's gorgeous. She, I think it's Lopi, probably. It's, very rustic. She made this for him, I think, when he was in his late teens. He wore it lots, and it's got does it have a zipper? Yeah, it has a zipper in the front. It's been sitting in my closet, or actually my husband's closet. She gave it to my husband years ago. Doesn't fit. She made it for a fit, thin, 20-something-year-old or late teenager, and my husband is not that. It did fit him better, 15 years ago, but doesn't really fit him anymore. But it sat in the back of the closet. I couldn't bear to give it away. I'm actually thinking that perhaps in another couple of years, if I gave it a little TLC, gave it, like I said, a good bath and cleaned it up and mended up a couple of little loose threads in it, that it could be that I could give it to one of my nephews when they're a little older, if they were interested. It's super, I think this would be super, super warm. It's so thick and squishy that it practically would be a winter coat all on its own. So anyway, I thought I'd show that because that's fun, and I was just remembering that was in my closet. So I think I've covered pretty much everything other than I want to remind you of the cal that we have going on right now, the Late to the Party cal. There's a thread in the Ravelry group, which is a Creative Mojo group on Ravelry. That sounds silly and redundant. But you can check that out. All the rules about the cal are in that first thread. It runs through May and June till the end of June. It's about knitting up a popular pattern that you've never knit before. Again, this is the first post in the chat thread. Gives all the details and some links to pattern examples and stuff. We've already got a couple of, I think we've got 4 finished objects in the finished object thread, which is super exciting, but lots of time left to go. So please come, and if you are interested, come and check that out, read what it's about, and maybe see if you don't have a pattern that would fit, or project that would fit into that. And if you are doing stuff and you're on Instagram, hashtag it as, I'll put that down here, but as hashtag Late to the Party cal. And the last thing I'm going to mention is that I've got a questions and comments thread in the group, and as I was saying at the beginning, I really do want this to be pretty interactive, so I'm really eager to hear from you if you have questions for me or comments and want to, talk to me about something else you'd like to see on the podcast, or something more of something, or something less of something, or, please don't hesitate to post your comments in there and let me know what you think and share. And, if you want to post pictures of what you're working on in the thread for each episode, or who knows, maybe if people are interested, I can put up a what you're working on thread. But I really do want to, interact as much as possible. So don't be shy to come over and post in those threads. So that's everything. Just looking around me, that's everything that I have to talk to you about today. Again, thank you for taking a bit of time out of your day to spend with me. I really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. Bye.